I like you, even when I don't try to. Yes, I do, that's the truth, I like you, yeah.
Tonight is week 4 in our relationship series. It's the last one that we're doing. First week we talked about, instead of looking for the right person, we talked about becoming the right person. And when you become the right person, then it's a lot easier to find the right person for yourself. And the next week we talked about God's design and God's purpose for sex and how to protect yourself and put some boundaries up. Last week we talked about dating and how to date in a healthy way. And tonight we're talking about the end of the relationship. We're talking about breaking up. And I know breakups can be brutal. Breakups can be brutal. Rather than open some personal wounds from bad breakups that I've experienced, I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine who had a bad breakup. My friend Chris and I, we grew up together. Our birthdays were close together, so we always celebrated together. His was July 4th, mine was July 18th. And so we would always celebrate our birthdays together. Even when we got too old for the joint parties at McDonald's, we still would check in with each other on our birthdays and see how things were going, see what each other got for our birthday, that kind of thing. In high school, later on in high school, like our junior year, senior year, sometime around there, Chris started dating this girl, and so they were a fine couple. Chris was really good to her. He was a good boyfriend. He was head over heels for her. He worked really hard. His job was at KFC. He was a chicken slinger. And so he would make money and either spend it on his car or spend it on his girlfriend. And so he treated her really, really well. And so they were a good couple. I honestly don't know how they ever got together. Really, he was also the starting center on our basketball team. And she was in show choir with me. They ran in completely different circles. I don't remember introducing them ever. I don't know how they got together, but somehow, through the magic of love, they saw each other across the cafeteria in lockdown or something. I don't know how it happened. But they started dating, and they dated for a while. And then the summer after that school year, I called him up, on his birthday, and just to check in and see how his birthday went. Because I knew he and his girlfriend were going to do something together. And the reason I'm not saying her name is because I wasn't forthright enough to think of a fake name to tell you, and so I don't want to use her real name, because I don't want you guys to stalk her down or something like that and be like, I heard you did this. But anyway, so I knew that they were going to do something that day, and so I called him up, and his story was not as good as I expected it to be. She came over on his birthday and gave him a card, and he thought, this is a typical boyfriend-girlfriend card, and it's going to say a lot of nice things and have a gift card or here's some free hug coupons or something like that. A nice sweet gift from his girlfriend. So he started reading it. Chris, you're so special to me. I love you so much. You're such a fun person. And then there's those three letters that change the tone of any note. What'd you say? But, yes. But we need to break up. And he was kind of dumbfounded. He's floored. He's like, I love you. Good person, great personality, fun, break up. Something does not add up right here. I didn't know how to respond. If you talk to Chris's brother today, he still has some anger towards her about it, and he was not happy because this girl who Chris was just head over heels in love with broke up with him on his birthday in writing in his birthday card. Happy birthday. I'm going to go see other people. It was an awful, awful way to break up. There are terrible ways out there to break up. Let me just advise you, breaking up in writing in a birthday card is a bad way to break up. Ghosting is another one of those bad ways of breaking up. Ghosting is when you're dating somebody and then you just kind of disappear. You stop responding to text, you make no attempts to reach out, and they don't know where you went. You just kind of stop all communication and hope that they get the idea. That you don't want to see him anymore. And so that's a bad way to break up. Breaking up via text, also a bad way of breaking up. Having your friend go and break up for you, also a bad way of breaking up. And I'm not trying to condemn anybody who's done it, because I've done most of those things. And so I've learned my lessons. And hopefully I'll never have to use that again, right, Jim? I don't have to use that again, right? Okay, excellent. There's a lot of examples of bad breakups. But the reality is, nearly every relationship ends in a breakup. And I want you to think about it like this. There are two ways that a relationship can end. You either get married or you break up. Those are the two options that every relationship has. And so breakups are going to be a part of your life. And that's okay. That's okay, but we got to figure out how to do them well, because when you're emotionally invested in a relationship, when your heart is involved in a relationship and all of a sudden it gets broken, it can cause some damage. It can cause some damage, and it could cause some emotional heartache in your life. And so I want to make sure that we understand what the Bible has to say about these kind of relationships and how we need to respond in these kind of situations, because they are so important to us and they are such a vital part of our lives. And so we're going to focus on breaking up when you're dating. And like I've said in the other lessons that we've talked about, maybe you're not interested in dating right now. Maybe you're not dating anyone right now. And that's okay. That's okay. Take your time. Please take your time. But I want you to listen to these things so that you are prepared when the time comes, how to respond in these kinds of situations. But the main thing I want us to remember is that when it's time to break up, or when it's time for the relationship to end, we need to respond to it in the way that we should, not in the way that we want to. We need to respond to a breakup in the way that we should, not in the way that we want to. The first thing that we do when we end a relationship, or when a relationship is over, the first way that we need to respond is we need to control our hate. We need to handle our hate. And so when we experience a breakup, whether you're the dumper or the dumpee, breakup terms, not bathroom terms, it's so easy to hate. Some of you got that, I appreciate that. When we don't handle our hate very well, we respond negatively. We might put them on blast on social media. We might put a picture up and a picture that we've like scratched over or scraped them out. We might delete all the other occurrences of them on our timeline. We might just want to put them on blast on social media. We might have some people that are in our lives that we just want to gossip to about that other person. You know, you guys thought he was such a nice guy, but then you don't know what he did here, you don't know he did this, he said this, and so you just kind of run your mouth and vent about these bad situations in your relationship. That's a bad way to handle our hate. And maybe there's a situation where you just want to manipulate future relationships just so that you can mess with them. That happens to people. You and your girlfriend break up and she starts dating somebody else, and so you try to undercut this other guy and try to damage that relationship. There's difficult, breakups are difficult. Often we don't handle them very well because we're not handling our hate. The thing is, when you hate, you're the one that ultimately looks bad. Proverbs 25:28. The version up on the screen says, "A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls." Another version says it this way: "A person without self-control is like a house with its doors and windows knocked out." When we respond to a breakup in the way that we want instead of the way that we should, by venting and hating, ultimately we're the ones that look bad. We look like a house with broken windows. We look like a city without a wall. And to understand this reference, you got to understand a wall around the city was a source of pride. It was if there was no wall in the city, other nations would just scoff at that city. Other armies could come and just take whatever they wanted. And that's what happens when we don't have self-control. When we're not controlling our hate, then any kind of thing will set us off. And we're the ones that ultimately look bad. We're the ones that ultimately look bad. But at some point you're going to move on. And so you have to avoid these long-term consequences while going through this temporary emotional turmoil. And so you got to make sure that your wall is up, that your doors and windows are closed, so that you're not venting or expressing hate out of a lack of self-control. This is especially true in a small town. Breakups in a small town are difficult. There's a guy that wrote a whole song about it. Who wrote that song? Okay, I knew y'all would know. Sam Hunt wrote a song about breaking up in a small town because it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do because a lot of times when your friend's dating somebody, you're probably friends with them too. You've probably been friends with them for a long time as well. And then when they break up, if one of them is not handling their hate very well, they're going to come to you and say, it's either him or me, or it's her or me. You got to choose. And they try to put you in between them, and it just gets really dramatic and really unnecessary. And what happens is you end up losing more than a girlfriend or boyfriend. You lose a lot of other people around you if you're not handling your hate. When we're ready to move forward, though, the only way to heal, the only way to grow, is to keep hate out of that process. Proverbs 14, verse 30. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. This is a biblical truth here, that if your heart is peaceful, then your body is more healthy. If your heart, and I think medicine shows that when your heart is anxious, when your heart is stressed out, it causes a lot of physical issues. And emotional turmoil of a breakup can really have some problems, can give you some problems if you don't handle it very well. If you let the emotions, if you let the hate take over. We can't heal, we can't grow while holding on to hate. So we have to shut the door on the hate. How you handle a breakup shows a lot more about you than the person that you're dealing with. When we break up, we're tempted to think, well, it doesn't matter how I act now because I'm not in a relationship with anymore. I can do what I want. And maybe your friends are kind of encouraging you in that direction. Maybe they're like, yeah, you tell her off, you do this, you do that. And maybe there's some other folks in your life. Maybe you've gone home after your breakup and you vented to your parents, and they're like, well, I'm going to call their mom right now and give them a piece of mind. And so they're kind of feeding that anger in your heart. But a breakup really forces us to look in the mirror and evaluate our true character. Talking about breaking up like we should and how we want to. The first thing is we have to handle our hate. The second thing is we have to look at our character. Proverbs 22, verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver or gold. A good name is to be chosen rather than riches. Throughout the book of Proverbs, gold and silver are used as the ultimate sign of wealth. They're a metaphor for the ultimate sign of wealth. But here in this verse, the writer of Proverbs says that a good name, a good reputation, your character is so much more important, so much more valuable than even gold or silver. Despite how ugly the situation, how poor the relationship ended, we have to choose to commit to breaking up how we should and how we want to, because choosing a good name is more important than silver or gold. Honoring the other person is important even in the process of breaking up. And you might think, you don't know how they treated me. You don't know how they ended things. You don't know how they treated me during that relationship. But honoring this other person in a relationship doesn't mean that you need to give them a pass for how they treated you. It doesn't mean that you need to give a cheater another chance. However, it does mean that we strive to treat people, even the dishonorable people, in an honorable way. So we avoid gossip. We avoid trying to get even with them. We avoid trying to manipulate relationships. Your heart might be broken. That happens with a breakup, and I understand that. But even with a broken heart, how you handle a breakup says a lot more about you than about the person that you're with. And so we have to choose a good character. Choose a good character. We have to choose a good name. And so we break up with the person the way we should, not the way that we want to. Now, how you break up is often overlooked. I gave some examples of how not to break up. Break up with somebody the way that you would like to be broken up with. Have a face-to-face conversation with them. Come to them with good reasoning. But in a breakup, it's not a time to negotiate. Breakups are not a time to negotiate. It doesn't mean that we're going to handle them all perfectly, but we need to handle them well. We have to handle them like we should, not like we want to. And then when we handle a breakup well, it gives us an incredible opportunity for growth. When we handle a breakup well, and it gives us this opportunity for growth, it lets us see what is most important in our life. You see, relationships, dating can be a lot like sugar. And we avoided giving Knox and Helen a whole lot of sugar, like carbonated drinks and stuff like that when they were really little. I was going to say little, but they're still little now. When they were really little, we avoided giving them carbonated beverages and sugary soft drinks and that kind of thing, because we knew that once they got into it, they were just going to get addicted to it. That's what sugar does to us. You get a little bit and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I need to have more of this. And so you keep going and keep going. And then when you take sugar away from somebody, they go through withdrawals. And they need it. They start getting headaches. They need it. And that's kind of what dating is like. The first time you hold somebody's hand, you're like, oh, this is amazing. This is exciting. I can't believe this is happening. And then you're like, you start to love that companionship that you feel, whether you fall in love with posting stuff, posting pictures with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and the attention that brings. Maybe you just love cuddling, or snuggling. Maybe you love that kind of thing, and you're like, I can't get enough of this. I need to be with this person all the time. And so then you're getting to school early so you can spend more time together, and you're sticking around school. You're like, Mom, don't pick me up for like another hour. I really have important work to do here at school. And so you just can't get enough. You can't get enough of spending time with this other person. And then when that relationship ends, we go into shock, we go into withdrawals, and that's because we've forgotten what our purpose is. We've forgotten what our purpose is. Instead of craving our ultimate purpose, we're craving this other person, this relationship with another person. Breakup gives us an opportunity to ask this question: who am I truly living for? Who am I truly living for? Good answer. I heard that. A breakup shouldn't break our purpose. It shouldn't leave us feeling that we don't have anything to live for. Breakup shouldn't leave us feeling like we're worthless or ugly or that we're not good enough. If we're feeling that way after a breakup, these are all signs that our purpose has shifted from a relationship with God to a relationship with this other person. So like my good friend Ice Cube said back in the day, when it comes to our purpose, we have to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. Absolutely, absolutely. And let me just tell you, if you look throughout the Bible, before we get into this last section of tonight, if you look throughout the Bible, God has this incredible way of seeing when a person has forgotten their purpose and wrecking their lives. God has a way of doing that. When He sees that somebody is so far off base that they've distanced themselves from Him, God will come in and wreck them to bring them back. And so it's always good to check our purpose and see if we're on task. Luke 10:27, we find our purpose. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind. When we break up with somebody, it gives us this chance to look into a mirror and see who or what we really love. It gives us the opportunity to refocus on running our own race. We talked about a marathon last week. Dating can be like running a marathon. This is a great passage, Philippians 3:13 and 14. It says this: Brothers, I do not consider that I've made it my own, but the one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Forgetting what's behind, straining for what lies ahead, I press on towards the goal, the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. I love that passage because Paul's like, nothing else is as important in our lives as pushing towards Christ. Paul says everything else is a hindrance. Everything else is going to slow us down. Everything else is going to take away from that. And that goes back to the very first week where we talked about becoming the right person instead of finding the right person. This is how you become the right person, is pursuing Christ. That's our purpose, is to pursue Christ with everything that we've got. We can handle a breakup not how we want to, but how we should, by checking our purpose. Checking our purpose in a breakup might affect our decision to break up, how we go about breaking up, or how we choose to respond to being broken up with. And no matter your dating situation, whether you're single, whether you're dating, whether you're seriously dating somebody, check your purpose. Check your purpose. Are you getting all of your significance from this person, or are you still pursuing Christ? You're getting your significance from Him. Satan has this incredible way of using major life events to take us away from God. And a lot of times those major life events revolve around relationships. Relationships are vitally important. It's the reason we spent 4 weeks on it, because in a relationship, we're giving our heart to somebody else. We're giving our heart to somebody else. And so when we do that, it has a significant impact on our daily lives. It has a significant impact on our attitudes, our personalities, our moods. And you know that if you have a friend that just broke up with somebody, they're in a bad mood. If you have a friend who just started dating somebody, then everything is sunshine and rainbows. Because relationships impact everything around us. They're important to us. Satan knows that he can use those kind of relationships to take us away from our purpose of following Christ. And a lot of times he will use a breakup to do that as well. Because a breakup, when we handle it the way that we want to, as opposed to the way that we should, a breakup causes us to tear somebody else down. It makes us want to hate on somebody. It makes us want to say some horrible things about them. Make sure everybody else knows what a terrible person that they are. Satan loves it when we do that. What God asks us to do is to show honor, to avoid gossip, to show self-control, and to pursue Him above everything else. If you've let a breakup distract you from your purpose, or if you've let a relationship distract you from your purpose of following Christ, make tonight the night that you say, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. Christ is my passion. Christ is my purpose. He's my pursuit. And everything else is secondary. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. We thank you for this time that we've had together tonight to dig into your word, to look a little bit closer about how to handle a breakup well. God, it's not fun. It's never fun to go through a breakup. It's never fun to have to experience something like that. But God, we know that your word gives us guidelines for how to respond in situations like that. So God, I pray for these students. I pray that when they face a time like that in their lives, God, that they would pursue you above all else. That God, that they would handle their hate, they would control it, they would show self-control. God, that they would pursue you above everything else. We love you, Lord. We love being here. We love fellowshipping together and growing in our relationship with God. I pray that you bring us back safely Sunday and next Wednesday as well. In Jesus' name I pray.